Chapter 71. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Rui followed the direction of the sound and crossed a dense forest. In the lush jungle, various elves could be seen desperately fleeing everywhere. Zhang Rui did not use the data eye to check their data. Now facing the crisis of large-scale destruction, Zhang Rui did not have extra time to select the best elves, but let the Tyrannosaurus speed up and fly quickly in the direction of the loud sound. After arriving at a high ground, a huge rock appeared in front of him. Zhang Rui guessed that this should be the place where the elves of the entire Shanghai forest held a meeting. Although this is the place where the Shanghai elves held a meeting, Zhang Rui found traces of fierce fighting around it, and dark pits could be seen everywhere. It seemed that the battle had just ended. With such a powerful force, Zhang Rui knew who did it without thinking. At this moment, an elf jumped onto the huge rock and made a harsh flute sound, which resounded throughout the inner area of the Shanghai forest. Almost all the elves active in the inner area could hear the sound. After hearing the sound, those elves ignored the food at their mouths and immediately ran away desperately. Zhang Rui thought that there was absolutely no other Pokémon that could make such a piercing sound except the Sonic Monster. Obviously, the one standing in the middle of the huge rock was the Sonic Monster. But Zhang Rui discovered through the data eye that the Sonic Monster in front of him was surprisingly high in level, and was even comparable to the level of Dragonite. At the same time, Zhang Rui saw a large number of Sonic Monsters behind the Sonic Monster, as well as the Roaring Bomb and Gunnyunyu who were staring blankly. These should be the tribe of Sonic Monsters, and Zhang Rui obviously knew one of the Sonic Monsters, which was the Sonic Monster that fought with the Kabutosaurus yesterday. At this time, the Sonic Monster should have seen Zhang Rui. It was also a little shocked, because it felt a strong deterrent from the Tyrannosaurus under Zhang Rui. Zhang Rui thought about it. Yes, the opponent who could still hold his wrist yesterday actually has such a strong strength now. If it were someone else, it would probably think the same way. Zhang Rui did not continue to pay attention to the explosion monster, but went to see the high-level explosion monster. He saw many injuries on its body, and the most serious one was on its left arm, which was already swollen. Obviously, it must have been fighting with a powerful elf just now. It could not beat the other party in a fistfight, so it had to give in the end. There is no need to think about who can fight it except Do. Only his Dragonite and Gyarados can compete with the explosion monster in front of him. It is estimated that after the explosion monster and Do finished fighting, they immediately notified the elves in the Shanghai forest after receiving the news from Do, and let them run away quickly. At this time, after the explosion monster completed the last notification, it glanced at Zhang Rui in the air, and ran in the same direction with its tribe. Zhang Rui guessed that the explosion monster in front of him should be the overlord of the entire forest, and Do's purpose of fighting it was very simple, which was to defeat the overlord of the forest. It is always better to notify it through its notification than to notify it one by himself. This is mainly because the status of the forest overlord is the highest among all the elves. Every word it says is like an order, and no elf dares to disobey it openly. Since the explosion monster has helped Zhang Rui to inform, Zhang Rui no longer needs to deal with other elves, but quickly keeps up with the pace of the explosion monster tribe, wanting to see where they go back to avoid the crisis of destruction. After passing through a dense forest, Zhang Rui saw the Jingxin Lake in the distance. Today, the Jingxin Lake is no longer as empty as when Zhang Rui and Yifei came. Now it is full of wild elves. A large number of wild elves are crowded together. After all, the area of Jingxin Lake is so large, and there are so many elves, at least tens of thousands of them. If they don't squeeze together, most of the elves will be affected by the explosion and lose their lives. In addition to the elves, Zhang Rui also saw familiar faces, that is, the elves that were defeated by it, and Yifei. Of course, Do and the handsome guy were also there. When they saw Zhang Rui coming, they also surrounded him. These elves are hiding from danger in the Jingxin Lake. Is there any secret in this Jingxin Lake? Du came to Zhang Rui and asked him. Zhang Rui didn't know what in the Jingxin Lake could help these elves escape the current disaster, but with so many elves hiding from the disaster, Zhang Rui felt that there must be some connection between it and Akanom. Could it be that these elves believed that Akanom would protect their safety? But Zhang Rui didn't really believe it. mainly because Akhenaten was now sealed at the bottom of the lake and it was impossible for him to use his power to resist the aftermath of the explosion of the instrument. Zhang Rui was about to persuade the elves to they quickly ran to the periphery, but he realized that it was too late. When it went to the Jingxin Lake, 9 minutes had passed. Now it was too late for these elves to run to the periphery of the Shanhai forest. This minute was not enough. Zhang Rui could only give up this idea and choose to trust these elves for once, hoping that Akhenaten could come forward to help these elves resist the disaster that happened this time. Time passed by minute, and almost all the elves in the Shanhai forest came to the Jingxin Lake. After the last blue ran here. Boom! A huge sound resounded through the sky, and a huge mushroom cloud appeared. The originally blue sky was covered by dark clouds, and the shock wave generated by the huge explosion extended to the inner area of the forest. All trees will be instantly destroyed when they touch the yellow-white shock wave. What a terrible destructive power! Even Zhang Rui, who was standing far away, swallowed his saliva. With such a strong impact, he seemed to be ready to face death. He felt that he was just a tiny dust, and would be blown away by the wind. Seeing that the shock wave was getting closer and closer to Jingxin Lake, Zhang Rui and others had chosen to close their eyes and wait for death to come. At this moment, Jingxin Lake suddenly glowed with white light, which extended from the center of Jingxin Lake to the lakeside until it extended to the edge of the lake. Just when it touched the lakeside, the white light was a little dim. Suddenly, the phantom of Akhenaten appeared in the middle of the lake, and the ruby on his head emitted a red light, extending to the lakeside. At the moment of reaching the edge, a powerful white light column shot up into the sky. This light column rushed straight into the sky, directly breaking a huge hole in the dark clouds in the sky. With the help of Akhenaten, this white light column extended to the outside world, covering all the elves, and continued to extend to the central area. Until the two powerful forces collided violently, it was obvious that the power of the light column was even stronger, and it quickly pushed back the shock waves that filled the sky. After gaining a certain advantage, the power of the light column was once again enhanced, and it extended to the outside world again, forming an encirclement, continuously compressing the shock waves generated by the explosion until it was driven to the central area. Chapter 72. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The shock wave in the compressed central area naturally could not let the light column suppress it, and immediately extended into the air, directly hitting the area where the ultimate cave was originally opened. Boom! The second explosion sounded again, but this time the explosion rushed into the sky and directly injected into the location of the ultimate cave. Due to the powerful energy, the ultimate cave was opened again. However, the energy was too huge this time, and the ultimate cave could not withstand this energy at the beginning. A large amount of white electric current was generated on the surface of the ultimate cave, which seemed to affect the ultimate cave. As the shock wave on the ground gradually disappeared, the entrance of the ultimate cave was gradually increasing and expanding its scope. Zhang Rui, who saw this scene, suddenly had a bad premonition. If the ultimate cave continued to expand like this, it would probably cause a large number of alien beasts from the other world to flood into the elf world. Zhang Rui had also seen the environment in the other world when he was watching anime. The environment inside was not easy for humans to survive, let alone the alien beasts who lived there as soon as they were born. After these beasts come to the elf world, they are likely to invade the entire elf world because of the superior environment here. I am afraid that by that time, the entire elf world will face a huge crisis. At this time, Zhang Rui noticed that a thin energy membrane had formed on the surface of the ultimate cave. Behind the membrane, a large number of beasts could be seen trying to break the energy. Although the energy membrane looks as thin as a layer of paper, it can withstand the attacks of a large number of beasts, which also makes Zhang Rui feel much more at ease. If the beasts invade the elf world in large numbers, it will be troublesome. At this time, the expansion of the ultimate cave stopped unexpectedly. It should be that the energy is exhausted. There is no energy to support the expansion of the ultimate cave. Without the supply of energy, the ultimate cave should be closed soon. Zhang Rui guessed in his heart that the opening of the ultimate cave requires huge energy. Now that the energy has disappeared, the ultimate cave should be closed, but this was beyond Zhang Rui's expectation. The ultimate cave did not expand or shrink, but was collapsing. At the edge of the ultimate cave, the azure sky was like fragments, gradually collapsing. After the collapse to a certain extent, the ultimate cave became an eye, and the energy membrane was like a retina. The eyes opened and looked for a few times, then slowly closed, and the sky returned to its original appearance, still clear, but there was no cloud in the sky, probably because of the light column just now, causing the clouds to drift away, since the shock wave of the explosion disappeared. The light column had no reason to exist, and it also dissipated into the air with the disappearance of the shock wave. Seeing that the crisis was resolved, many elves immediately turned around to worship Akanom in the middle of the lake to express their gratitude, because Akanom had just used up all his energy. His body was a little illusory, but seeing that many elves were grateful to it, it nodded, looked at Zhang Rui, and disappeared. Since the crisis has been resolved, many elves did not stay here, but returned to the forest again to continue their lives. I didn't expect that there really is an Akanom in the Tranquility Lake. Now it is the guardian of the entire forest. After all the elves left, Du turned around and looked at the lake, then looked at Zhang Rui and said, "Now that the explosion is over, I'm going to check the explosion site to see if there are any clues left by the skeleton team." Du took back all the other elves, leaving only a Dragonite. When leaving, Du said to Zhang Rui, "I heard from the handsome guy that you have a strange beast in your hand. I hope you can cultivate it well. With your strength, I believe that we will meet again soon. Even the national competition, if you can enter one of the 8 masters, then we can have a fight. Goodbye." As soon as Du finished speaking, he rode Dragonite to the central area. Only the handsome guy and Zhang Rui were left. Since the handsome guy was also under the jurisdiction of the Alliance, he now needed to report the entire case, but the most critical photo was destroyed by the Alliance, which put the handsome guy in a difficult dilemma. Without concrete evidence, the Alliance would not issue a wanted order for the skeleton team, which would be troublesome. Fortunately, Yi Fei took a photo at the time, which captured almost all of them except Bull Beauty, and was very suitable as evidence for this incident. After Yi Fei transferred the photo to the handsome guy's phone through his mobile phone, the handsome guy made a farewell gesture to the two of them and said, "Since you two helped me destroy the skeleton team's plan, when I return to the Alliance, I will apply to my superiors, and it is very likely that there will be a mysterious reward will be delivered by express delivery." After listening to this, Zhang Rui and Yi Fei also showed excited smiles. They naturally knew that the rewards sent by the Alliance were definitely not ordinary prizes. After sending the handsome guy away, Zhang Rui and Yi Fei should go back. After a few days of adventure, the strength of the two increased dramatically. Yi Fei obtained 3 elves with excellent qualifications, especially the level 35 Cool Leopard, whose strength is also very good in the Mountain and Sea Elf Academy. Now it is estimated that the level of most student elves has not even reached level 30, and Yi Fei has already crossed this threshold. Obviously, Yi Fei has reached the level of a sophomore. Under normal circumstances, most students with level 30 elves are sophomores, and juniors are level 40. Generally, after reaching level 40, they can graduate. This also means that as long as Zhang Rui is willing, he can graduate at any time, but Zhang Rui does not want to graduate so early. After all, his current strength is not enough. Even if the Tyrannosaurus breaks through the level 50 mark, Zhang Rui feels that his strength is still too weak, because I thought of the time when he was fighting Guzma, he was killed by the armored warrior in one move, which shows that his strength needs to be improved. The main thing is that Zhang Rui will face extremely powerful beasts in the future, and those who capture the beasts are what kind of people, what rocket team, plasma team, flare team, their bosses elves must be comparable to the champion, otherwise how can they catch the beasts? So, now Zhang Rui has to hide and make good use of the copy system to make his strength stronger. After that, Zhang Rui let Yi Fei sit on the Tyrannosaurus and set off for the Mountain and Sea Elf Academy. With the flying elves, the journey can't help but become shorter, and there is no need to walk to the central area like when we came. Now you can fly directly. If you want to go to the center of the forest, just fly there, but Zhang Rui didn't go there. Now it has been razed to the ground by the explosion just now. It's useless for Zhang Rui to go there. It's better to go back to the dormitory and have a good rest. Tomorrow is the exchange competition of the academy. Chapter 73. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Rui rode on the Tyrannosaurus flying over the academy. The students who were playing or training the elves did not notice the existence of the Tyrannosaurus at all. One of the students was tired and lay on a chair to rest. He looked up and saw the huge figure in the sky. After noticing the pair of blood-red wings on its back, he immediately pointed at the figure in the sky and said loudly, "Everyone, look, that's the Tyrannosaurus." But with this student's words as an introduction, all the students looked up at the sky. The originally red sunset was blocked by a huge figure, but because of this, all the students saw the appearance of the Tyrannosaurus. They couldn't help but exclaimed, "This is a Tyrannosaurus. This is the first time I've seen one, and it's so huge. I don't know whose spirit it is. I think it must belong to a school teacher. Only teachers can have such a powerful spirit. Damn, the person who has this spirit must be a rich second generation. It would be great if it's a rich woman. I want to hug her thigh." "What rich woman? I prefer a rich second generation, so that I can marry him." Hearing everyone's exclamation, Yi Fei, who was sitting on the Tyrannosaurus, poked Zhang Rui's body and joked, "What would they think if they knew that the owner of this Tyrannosaurus was you?" "I don't know, anyway, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing." Zhang Rui replied, "Although Zhang Rui now has such a powerful quasi-god spirit like the Tyrannosaurus, he must not let others know, because he has to be low-key. If Principal Qian knows about it, he will definitely let Zhang Rui graduate directly. Think about it, Zhang Rui has just been in school for a few days, and he has graduated directly, which is simply amazing." But Zhang Rui doesn't want to graduate too early. Zhang Rui hasn't cut the leaks of this school yet. How could he leave so early? The rewards for every competition held by the school are very generous. With Zhang Rui's current strength, getting a particularly good ranking is just a matter of having hands. Therefore, the rewards given by the school are almost all free gifts. If he graduates, these free gifts will be gone. Under the gaze of many students, Zhang Rui came to the yard where his dormitory was located and chose to land there. If he landed outside the dormitory, it is estimated that all the students in the school would know that Zhang Rui has a Tyrannosaurus. If this matter spread to the ears of Principal Qian, he would probably find Zhang Rui directly and let him graduate, and landing in the yard of the dormitory can better hide his identity. Besides, Zhang Rui landed in Yi Fei's yard, so if he had to suspect someone, he would first suspect Yi Fei. After returning to the yard, Zhang Rui first put Tyrannosaurus back into the Pokeball. With its huge size, it was too difficult to move freely in the yard. It was better to put it back into the Pokeball and let it rest well. Afterwards, Zhang Rui said goodbye to Yi Fei and turned back to his dormitory. He was exhausted and immediately lay down on the bed as soon as he returned to the dormitory. He turned over and looked at the ceiling, and his heart fell into deep thought. The Skull Team in this world is indeed different from the one in the anime. The Skull Team in the anime can only be said to be like the Rocket Team trio, doing some robbing elves or sabotage. This kind of thing, directly summoning the ultimate cave and subduing the beast, is really unexpected. The Skull Team will do such a thing. And when Guzma left, the helicopter aroused Zhang Rui's suspicion. The R symbol on it, if Zhang Rui is right, then the person who drove the helicopter to rescue Guzma should be the Rocket Team. Zhang Rui had already thought of the Rocket Team in this world, but he didn't expect that it would join forces with the Skull Team, which is not a good thing. However, if the Rocket Team exists, then other teams should also exist. I'm afraid that they are brewing some plans now, but the target of these plans is the mythical beasts living in the elf world. When he thought of the divine beasts, Zhang Rui suddenly became restless. If these people were allowed to obtain the divine beasts in advance, the entire elf world would be doomed. The power of each divine beast is incredible. Even the lowest-ranked second-level god among the divine beasts is much stronger than the quasi-gods, just like Guzma versus Caiyou. If Guzma had not relied on the armored warrior's level of more than 30 to suppress, I am afraid that Caiyou would have defeated all of Guzma's elves long ago. This is just a low-level beast. If it is a second-level god in the elf world, the strength can be imagined. No wonder no one can subdue the divine beast. This makes sense. Thinking of the first-level god above the second-level god, it is an existence that can easily destroy a country, then what about the god of creation? I am afraid he can destroy the world at will. After all, this world was created by the god of creation, that if it was created by hand, then it can be destroyed by hand. Thinking of this, Zhang Rui immediately stood up and sat up. It was still a long way to conquer that powerful beast. Now he should improve his strength to avoid being beaten without fighting back when he met Guzma in the future. He looked at the time. It was not early. The elves had not eaten for a day. Zhang Rui was also busy today. He could not even eat a meal. However, the harvest was still very rich. At least he snatched a paper sword with the strength of a second-level god from Guzma. This was a very good start. Afterwards, after preparing the elf blocks, Zhang Rui summoned all the elves, but the Tyrannosaurus was summoned in the yard. Its current size was too large. If it was summoned in the house, the whole room would definitely collapse under its huge weight. It was just right in the yard to accommodate its body. Coincidentally, Zhang Rui also wanted to see what changes the Tyrannosaurus had after this evolution. Every evolution of the elves was an improvement in qualifications. The improvement of qualifications means that it may learn more skills, but these skills are learned from its genes, that is, whatever skills its ancestors had. It means that the Tyrannosaurus may also learn this skill. Zhang Rui first came to the yard, released the Tyrannosaurus, took out a larger bowl, and put the experience cubes and speed cubes in it. When it was originally a carapace dragon, the amount of experience cubes and energy cubes was relatively moderate, but after it evolved, the amount of food this time caught up with the amount of food that the 3-day carapace dragon ate. However, Zhang Rui was also happy about this, which showed that the ability of the Tyrannosaurus was improved more rapidly. The Tyrannosaurus, which had just been summoned, saw a large bowl of energy cubes in front of him and immediately started eating excitedly. Zhang Rui took advantage of this time to observe the physical data of the Tyrannosaurus, so as to understand the Tyrannosaurus better, and when fighting again, he would be able to exert the full strength of the Tyrannosaurus. Chapter 74. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Name, Tyrannosaurus, Attribute, Dragon/Flying, Level, LV52, Quality, SS-. Gender, Male, Status, Healthy, Features, Overconfidence, Carrying Props, None, Inherited Moves, Dragon Wave, Dragon Dance, Dragon Fury, Flame Fong, Tornado, Round, Hold On, Make a Big Trouble, Round, Hold On, Water Cannon. Basic Skills, Rage, Sparks, Stare, Bite, Dragon Breath, Head Hammer, Gather Chi, Hold On, Dragon Claw, Mind Hammer, Ghost Face, Jet Flame. Taught Skills, None, Skills and Secrets, None. Sure enough, I have learned a lot of skills, but what's the matter with this water cannon? Could it be that your ancestors have a water spirit? Hearing Zhang Rui's doubts, Tyrannosaurus roared and immediately continued to eat the energy cube in front of him. Moreover, the qualifications of Tyranitar have also been upgraded to SS level, but there should be no significant improvement in the future. After all, this is already the final form of Tyranitar. However, with only SS level, it is 1 in a million. It can even be said that there are only a handful of SS level elves in the whole of China. The overall improvement speed of elves that can reach SS level qualifications is very fast. It can almost be said that defeating several elves of equal strength may increase the level by 1 level. Compared with elves of the same level, the improvement is indeed fast. Since he has learned the data of Tyranitar, Zhang Rui did not stay in the yard for long, but returned to the house and released all the remaining elves. In addition to Zubat, Pixie, and baby Kira's, there is also the paper sword snatched from Guzma. Ji Yujian was just summoned and was still a little confused. Looking at the strange master in front of him, he thought, isn't my master Bai Mao? How come he has become so young and handsome? The function of the ultimate ball seems to be similar to that of ordinary elves. It has a taming function for elves, making wild elves obedient, instead of going crazy everywhere after being summoned. Who can resist this? However, Zhang Rui guessed that this was not the problem of the ball. The reason should be the elves themselves. If a creature like an elf is conquered by a pokeball and thinks that it has failed, then it should show absolute obedience to the person who conquered it. it's like the explosion monster in the Shanghai forest. Its strength is strong, so the elves in the entire forest will obey its orders. Obviously, Ji Yujin was still a little unfamiliar with this group when he just joined. Zhang Rui immediately introduced, "This is your new partner, Ji Yujin, you can get to know him." The new elf has just come to Zhang Rui's team, so it should be introduced so that it is not so unfamiliar. Fortunately, the three elves were quite friendly. Zubat first spun around its head to show its friendliness, while Pixie came to Paper Sword and patted its body to express its welcome. Young Kira's patted its body, saying that Paper Sword could hang out with it in the future and take it to eat delicious food and drink spicy drinks every day. Zhang Rui didn't want to say anything when he saw young Kira's arrogant expression. Paper Sword's level is much higher than yours. It's hard to say whether it will lead you or you will lead it. Name, Paper Sword, Attribute, Grass/Steel, Level, LV 50, Quality, SS, Gender, None, Status, Healthy, Features, Beast Upgrade, Carrying Items, None, Inherited Moves, None, Basic Skills, Holy Sword, Clear Spray, Vacuum Wave, Air Blade, Continuous Slash, IAI Slash, Stop at the Point, Leaf Blade, Photosynthesis, Swallow Return, Sharpening, Sneak Attack, Sword Dance, Leaf Blade, Cross Scissors, Spirit Blade, Taught Skills. Ultimate Absorption, Shoot Down, Iron Wall. Skill Secrets, None. Faced with the welcome of several elves, Paper Sword also felt like returning home. First, he talked to the young Kiras, and then he fought with them. The Tyrannosaurus outside could only stare blankly. There was nothing he could do. It was too big and the room could no longer hold it. Since the elves were familiar with each other, Zhang Rui also took out the remaining energy cubes and started feeding them as a shit shoveler. Zhang Rui gave each elf different energy cubes according to their strengths, but Zhang Rui still gave Pixie energy cubes. Now he had no time to study new energy cubes, so he could only let Pixie suffer a little and eat the energy cubes first. After feeding, Zhang Rui did not pay attention to the eating habits of other elves, but mainly to whether Ji Yujin would like the food in the elf world. How to say, the food in the elf world is different from that in the other world. There are still some differences, and it is very likely that something will not suit your appetite. But when I saw that Ji Yujin first carefully picked up a piece and put it in his mouth and took a bite, he found that it tasted good, so he continued to eat. Seeing that Ji Yujin was not very picky about the food in the elf world, Zhang Rui naturally felt relieved, and also thought about what to do if Ji Yujin didn't like it. As long as he likes to eat, since Ji Yujin's own physical attack is particularly strong, Zhang Rui also focused on this direction and gave it most of the physical attack energy blocks, and a small part of it is experience blocks. The physical attack value of the newly captured elves is very low, and it must first be improved through energy blocks, and then upgraded later, so that its strength will be stronger. And Ji Yujin is now a second-level god, and it has the bonus of a divine beast. With the physical attack block, you can imagine the attack power in the future. While the elves were eating, Zhang Rui walked to the cabinet, took out a bucket of instant noodles, heated it up, and began to enjoy its dinner. Now he hadn't gone to the dungeon for a few days. Zhang Rui thought that after dinner, he would continue to go to the dungeon for adventure and get more system rewards. Anyway, the dungeon is very humane, and Zhang Rui can use almost everything given, just like the Banjira's detector. In order to fight against the mythical beast, Zhang Rui needs the help of the quasi-god, and the system gave it a Banjira's detector, so that he can get the opportunity to become a quasi-god. It can be said that the system is very humane, and it knows Zhang Rui's thoughts and needs. Soon, several elves had finished their dinner. Except for Pixie and Paper Sword, the levels of young Kiras and Zubat were upgraded again. As soon as the level of young Kiras was upgraded, it was seen that its body was lit with white light, and its body began to grow slowly, and its size began to increase. Silver spikes began to grow behind it, and its eyes changed from gentleness just now to a bit fierce. Evolved so quickly, Shakira's. Chapter 75. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Name, Shakira's. Attribute, Rock/Ground. Level, LV 30, Quality, SS-. Gender, Male. Status, Excited. Features, Shedding, Carrying Items, None. Inherited Moves, Primal Power, Malice Pursuit, Curse, Dragon Dance, Gathering Chi, Iron Wall, Iron Tail. Basic skills: Bite, Stare, Sandstorm, Harsh Sound, Gradually Break, Rockfall, Ghost Face, Make a Big Trouble. Taught skills: Power of the Earth, Iron Head. Skill secrets: None. After the evolution of the young Shakiras, Zhang Rui looked through the skills. He didn't care about the new skills he learned. The skill of making a big fuss is a general skill. Although the skill is very powerful, it will fall into chaos after using it a few times. Zhang Rui will not use this skill under normal circumstances. After all, the general skill is used by a spirit with rock and ground attributes, and the effect is indeed not very useful. The main concern is the qualification issue. It actually went directly from S+ to SS-, directly surpassing the qualification of Tyranitar. In other words, if it evolves again, its qualification is likely to jump directly to SS level. This is equivalent to the qualification of a second-level god. What a terrifying qualification it is, and it will undergo super evolution in the future. After super evolution, the qualification and racial value will be improved one step further. You can imagine what a quasi-god with SS+ qualification is like. As long as it does not fight with water-type or grass-type beasts, it is a very powerful existence. Maybe it can fight with Groudon, or even fight. Thinking of the scene of fighting with Groudon, Zhang Rui was a little excited. Maybe it is really possible to fight with Groudon. Afterwards, since the elves were full, Zhang Rui also put them back into the elf ball and called out the system panel. System, do I want to continue to challenge the dungeon? Ding dong. Okay, host, the next copy to be challenged is the Arena Boy. Do you want to challenge it? I choose to challenge. Zhang Rui did not think, but immediately said to the system, okay, now teleport for the host. The familiar black vortex appeared again, and Zhang Rui entered the vortex again as before. At the same time, in the central area of the Shanghai forest, the central area at this time no longer looks the same as before. Now the entire area has been razed to the ground, and even the original cabin has disappeared. Of course, most of the surrounding forest areas have also been affected, and the losses are heavy. It will take at least hundreds of years to restore the original appearance. The red-haired man who is surveying the central area is naturally the champion trainer Du, and the middle-aged man following him is obviously a handsome guy. Du walked on the devastated surface. There were only debris from the explosion of the instrument on the ground. Du, who originally wanted to find clues here, did not gain anything. As a champion, he had to at least get some results from this operation, otherwise he would definitely be laughed at by those guys. Thinking of this, he kicked the soil on the ground with his feet. Bang! Du seemed to have kicked something hard, and he covered his toes in pain, saying, "What is that? It's so hard." The handsome guy in the distance heard the sound and came over. He bent down to check and found that there was a door handle where Du kicked. At this time, the handsome guy seemed to have found a treasure and said to Du excitedly, "This is a door handle, which means there is a basement inside." Basement. After hearing this, Du felt his feet no longer hurt. He walked to the entrance of the basement and said, "Since there is a basement, it means there must be important information inside." Dragonite. Dragonite, who was standing next to Du, nodded, grabbed the door handle, and pulled it gently, and it opened directly. Suddenly, a puff of dust hit the two men's faces. They waved their heads. Du first said to Dragonite, "You stay here and we'll go down and take a look." Du first walked down the stairs slowly, and the handsome guy followed behind, leaving Dragonite standing aside, vigilantly exploring the surrounding forest. Now it was night, and the bright moonlight was hanging in the sky. Perhaps because the central area was high, the moonlight fell on the ground and could be seen clearly without a flashlight. In the jungle not far away that was not destroyed by the explosion, a pink-haired woman watched Du slowly walk into the basement, took out the mobile phone she carried with her and called. "Lord Guzma, they seem to have discovered our basement. You are indeed a champion. The basement is so hidden that it can be found, but we don't need to care about it at all. There are only some useless data in it. It is impossible to make an instrument to open the ultimate cave with those data." Guzma on the other end of the phone was standing at the door of a room, surrounded by many members wearing black clothes, holding a mobile phone in his hand. But, the elves we are secretly researching may be discovered by them. Bull Beauty heard that Guzma on the other end of the phone didn't care much, and said immediately. Guzma pushed open the door and said again, that elf is only in the initial stage of research. They only understand part of it, which is actually useless. If you have nothing to do, just go back to the base and wait for my next instruction. After Guzma finished speaking, he hung up the phone and came to a huge room. As soon as he entered the room, he saw a huge back figure in front of him, with a hand wearing an emerald patting the cat boss under the chair. Of course, there was another person next to him wearing a Rocket Team uniform and a short skirt that only reached the upper part of the thigh. Guzma's main focus was on her thighs without a trace of fat. The two thighs were tightly closed together, which really made people want to imagine and have wild thoughts. Guzma, do you like my secretary's thighs? If you like, I'll give them to you. The man sitting on the chair knew that Guzma was coming and took a puff of his cigar. The purple-haired secretary standing beside him blushed when he heard it, and couldn't help but cover the inside of his thigh with the blue cardboard in his hand, not wanting Guzma to take another look. Just then, the originally dim room suddenly lit up with a white light, illuminating the entire room. The middle-aged man who was originally leaning against Guzma used the selection function of the swivel chair to turn around, staring at Guzma in front of him, took another puff of the cigar, and said, I heard that you have subdued a strange beast. It seems that your plan this time is very successful. How could it be successful? If it weren't for the bug that came out halfway, I could get more strange beasts. Chapter 76. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Guzma looked at the man in orange suit in front of him, with a slicked back hair and a hint of murderous aura in his fierce eyes, and immediately retorted, originally, his plan went very smoothly. As long as the ultimate cave was open, more ultimate beasts would run out of it. For this reason, he also prepared a large number of ultimate balls, just for this moment, but the abomination was that they were all destroyed by two underage kids and the detectives of the Alliance. Otherwise, he would have more than one ultimate beast in his hands. Although Guzma hated Zhang Rui and the others very much, he was not thinking about this problem now. Guzma looked up at the middle-aged man sitting at the table and said, Sakaki, you are not looking for me this time to reminisce with me. That this time, the Rockets went to great lengths and exposed themselves to rescue Guzma. They had no purpose, and no one would believe it. Sakaki stared at Guzma, put the cigar in his mouth, took a deep puff, and blew out white smoke rings from his mouth, saying, Actually, there is a reason why I saved you this time. I heard that your Skull team is secretly researching new elves, and our Rocket team also wants to get involved. Of course, we will provide you with the latest genetic technology. How about it? Guzma did not like Sakaki's request, but he couldn't help but be interested when he heard that he would provide him with genetic technology. Genetic technology is an important research project in the Rocket team. They have always hoped to study elves that have never appeared from ancient times to the present through genetic experiments. If this elf is strong, then they will choose mass production and then create an elf army. Their ultimate goal is the same as Guzma's goal, hoping to use elves to rule the world. Because of similar ideas, Guzma doesn't like the Rocket team very much. But their research funds are indeed provided by the Rocket team. Now Sakaki said that genetic technology should be integrated into new research. In fact, Guzma has no choice at all. He only has one option, agree. After all, if the Rockets interrupted the funding, their experiments would be forced to be interrupted, and the experimental plan for the new elves would end in failure. How about it? Our genetic technology has made great progress in the Golden Sea Forest. As long as our genetic experiments are added, the strength of the newly created elves will definitely be stronger. Seeing Guzma hesitate, Sakaki obviously didn't like hesitant people, so he spoke again. If Guzma still hesitated or refused, he could withdraw the research funds of the skeleton team and make the skeleton team disappear from this world. Of course, using the Rocket's genetic technology has always been my idea. This time, I can add genetic technology. I think the elves I create must be very powerful. After hearing Guzma's answer, Sakaki was obviously very satisfied. Being able to integrate genetic technology into the creation of new elves was one of the purposes of his providing funds to the skeleton team. Sakaki, is there anything else? If not, I'll leave first. Guzma was obviously a little impatient and spoke. No, you leave first. I will send some researchers over after a while. They have the core technology of the genetic plan. You have to treat them well. After saying that, Guzma left the room without looking back. After confirming that Guzma had left, the secretary beside him immediately said, the Skull team originally belonged to our rocket team. Why do they need his consent to use our genetic technology? Of course I have my own ideas. Although the Skull team is funded by us now, the people in it are not under our control. In order for the genetic experiment to be successful, it is necessary to conduct experiments in the Skull team. Sakaki patted the ash of his cigarette, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and said. How is it? Did Rambo get anything? The secretary nodded, took out a tablet, and explained, I heard from Dr. Rambo that a mysterious elf fossil was found, but there are only its eyelashes there, and the rest are some ancient biological fossils. Well, let Rambo continue to explore and see if there are any new discoveries. Yes, in the basement of the Shanghai forest, after Du and the handsome guy walked for a while, a room appeared in front of them. After opening the room, you can see that the space inside is so large, just like a huge office. Who are you? After seeing Du, the members of the skeleton team who were sorting out the information immediately summoned the elves to attack Du, but they were easily solved by the handsome guy's poisonous skull frog. The rest of the skeleton team members wanted to attack Du, but their level was too low, and they were easily knocked down by a poisonous skull frog. After that, they were all tied up by Du and the handsome guy one by one, and when the guard team arrived, they took all these people away. Du first picked up the paper on the table and took a look. There are all materials about the ultimate cave in it. Handsome guy, collect all these materials. The handsome guy nodded, and began to check the materials from the beginning, and collected the useful ones, and let the researchers of the Alliance do some research. The rest of the information was handed over to the handsome guy, and Du went to the innermost room. When he opened the door, there was only a desk, a bookshelf next to it, and some research materials. This should be Guzma's office. Now Guzma has escaped, and now there are only some materials here. Wait, what is this? Du found that in addition to the research materials on the ultimate cave, there was actually another document. After a rough browse, Du could roughly understand. In addition to opening the ultimate cave, the Skull team actually wanted to create new artificial elves. Although the information says so, this is only part of the information. Most of the information is not here. However, with only this small part of the information, the Alliance will pay attention to it. After all, the Alliance clearly prohibits trainers from creating new elves privately. Once discovered, they will definitely be punished by the Alliance. With only these evidences, I guess those lazy guys will be busy. Soon, the two of them sorted out all the information and notified the guards of Shanghai City to take all the members of the skeleton team away. After watching the guards take people away, Du also flew to the Alliance on Dragonite. This matter has come to an end. In the Shanghai City Elf Academy, Zhang Rui has disappeared in the dormitory. When he opened his eyes again, he found that it had appeared in a village. As soon as it appeared, it scared the farmers who were working in the fields. If it weren't for the existence of the skill of instant teleportation, it is estimated that these people would definitely faint directly. Chapter 77. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Little brother, you almost scared me to the point of having a heart attack. The old man, frightened by Zhang Rui, threw the hoe in his hand to the ground, covered his chest, and said tremblingly. Apparently, Zhang Rui had just arrived here and noticed the old man in front of him. Judging from his appearance, he must have been frightened by him, so Zhang Rui immediately went over to apologize. Sorry, old man, are you okay? Zhang Rui hurried over to help him, because he was worried that something had happened to the old man and he was blackmailed, which would be troublesome. Feeling Zhang Rui's support, the old man's heart warmed up and he said gently, "It's okay, kid, Grandpa is in good health. He used to exercise with the monster every day, and his body is very strong. You look like a trainer. Since you are a trainer, you can't avoid fighting Pokémon. I recommend an opponent to you. If you can beat him, your strength will definitely improve a lot. Zhang Rui, who was about to leave after making sure that the old man was okay, suddenly became interested after hearing what he said. Is there a trainer here who is more powerful than Shi Xiaoming? Then Zhang Rui would go to meet him. Such a powerful trainer must give a lot of experience points. Okay, I'm looking for a trainer to hone myself. Being able to fight with a trainer is very important for improving strength. Where is that trainer? Faced with Zhang Rui's inquiry, the old man pointed to the distant forest with his skinny finger and said, that person is in the distant forest. You will meet him soon after you go in. Looking at the direction in the distance, Zhang Rui was full of doubts. Isn't this the direction he wants to challenge the ring? Is there a stronger trainer besides Shi Xiaoming? Then he instantly became interested. While defeating Shi Xiaoming, he refreshed an extra wave of experience, which is still very good. After saying goodbye to the old man, Zhang Rui headed towards the lush forest in front. This forest is next to the nearby town. Since the residents in the town will go to the forest to collect tree fruits, Zhang Rui also met many people when he entered the forest. Some trainers also took advantage of this opportunity and stood at the exit of the forest, waiting for the arrival of other trainers. It just so happened that a boy wearing a blue hat and short-sleeved shirt just won the game and saw Zhang Rui who was about to enter the forest. His eyes lit up and he quickly approached him, pointed the Pokeball in his hand at Zhang Rui, and said, "You are a trainer. Can you accept my challenge?" Zhang Rui turned his head and looked at the boy who was not yet 10 years old. To be honest, Zhang Rui really couldn't muster up any energy to fight with such a young child, but since he asked, Zhang Rui, as a trainer, of course, had to agree. Of course, as a trainer, I will not refuse the challenge of other trainers. Then, the two moved to the grass not far away. The grass here had been flattened by their feet, causing the weeds on the ground to bend. The two distanced themselves on the grass and looked at each other. The boy first took out the Pokeball and threw it out, and Zhang Rui followed. Go! Little Rattata! Go! Shakiras! Both sides summoned their elves. The boy's elf was a little Rattata with a purple body. After seeing the tall Shakiras, the little Rattata looked a little frightened. After seeing Shakiras, the boy also clenched his palms. With a worried look on his face, looking at his appearance, he knew without thinking that he should have heard about the power of Shakiras. He was a little worried about whether he could defeat such a powerful quasi-god elf. Since you're still young, you attack first. At this time, Zhang Rui had seen through the other party's thoughts and said to him. The boy came back to his senses and was obviously unhappy when he heard Zhang Rui's words. He said, "This is what you said, little Rattata, use lightning flash." Shakiras, whatever. Little Rattata moved quickly on the grass and soon appeared in front of Shakiras. When he wanted to bump into him, he saw Shakiras's terrifying eyes. This also caused Rattata to faint before Shakiras could release his skills, and lost his ability to fight. Rattata. The boy was obviously sad to see that Rattata lost its ability to fight before it even touched the opponent, but he still took Rattata back with the Pokeball. Rattata, come back. After taking Rattata back into the Pokeball, Shakiras looked at Zhang Rui and said that it didn't do anything. It fell down by itself. Zhang Rui could also understand Shakiras's feelings, and didn't say anything, and took Shakiras back. Sure enough, it was too far-fetched to let Shakiras challenge ordinary trainers. Then, Zhang Rui walked into the depths of the forest, where wandering farmers and some small elves could be seen everywhere, and Zhang Rui estimated that the rare elves were in the deeper forest. Zhang Rui did not go to the deep forest to look for them. There were no rare elves here, they were all very common, so he decided to challenge the powerful trainer directly. Following the instructions of the old man, Zhang Rui quickly arrived at the destination. Looking at the gate built of many pieces of wood in front of him, the walls were also built one by one with wood, surrounding the central venue to form a camp exclusively for trainers, and Zhang Rui's eyes were focused on the big screen on the wooden door, which read, 98 consecutive wins. Zhang Rui was a little surprised. Isn't this Shi Xiaoming's ring? What does it have to do with that powerful trainer? Could it be that the old man was talking about a person? At this moment, Zhang Rui realized that the powerful trainer the old man was talking about was Shi Xiaoming. He was thinking about earning more experience, but he decided to finish the fight and leave as soon as possible. At present, Xiaozhi and his group should not be here yet. After all, after Xiaozhi arrives, the number on the screen will not be 98. Just when Zhang Rui was about to try to knock on the door, a voice suddenly came from the left side of the wooden door. "Are you here to challenge the trainer here?" Zhang Rui turned his head to look at the young man who was walking over. He knew at a glance that the young man in front of him was definitely Shi Xiaoming, mainly because his green hair really didn't make Zhang Rui think in that direction. Only Shi Xiaoming dared to dye his hair green, like a peacock with its tail spread out, with green hair floating behind. "Are you Shi Xiaoming?" Hearing Zhang Rui's question, Shi Xiaoming touched his green hair and said proudly, "Yes, I am Shi Xiaoming. I didn't expect that my name has spread so far. Trainers from other places like you know my name. It seems that as long as I complete 2 more consecutive victories, I can move forward on the road to becoming the strongest trainer." Chapter 78. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm Zhang Rui. I heard you're very strong. I'm here to challenge you. After listening to Zhang Rui, Shi Xiaoming kicked the wooden door in front of him and said with a proud look on his face, "Come on." Afterwards, Shi Xiaoming went to the tent to prepare first, while Zhang Rui came to the top of the ring and waited for Shi Xiaoming to arrive. While waiting, Zhang Rui looked around. Most of the facilities here were training facilities. It seemed that Shi Xiaoming had trained the elves a lot. Zhang Rui also knew something about Shi Xiaoming's training method. By making a kind of exercise equipment and letting the elves wear it, the elves' abilities will be improved at twice the speed during training. This is actually the prototype of the prop forced exerciser, which can indeed enhance the elves' abilities, but the speed is reduced. This kind of exerciser does have a great improvement on the elves, but Zhang Rui does not need this kind of thing. After all, he can provide a good ability improvement for the elves through energy blocks, which is much better than this training method. While Zhang Rui was thinking, Shi Xiaoming had already come to the ring, looking in Zhang Rui's direction, and said, "Sorry to have kept you waiting. Now let me tell you the rules of the game. I will use 1 Pokémon, and you can use all Pokémons. Don't worry, my Pokémon is very powerful, and one of them can defeat all your Pokémons." After hearing the rules he said, Zhang Rui frowned. This kid in front of him was really crazy. He is worthy of being called a beast. Even the rules of the game are so fierce. However, if he is asked to fight with Tyranitar, he will probably surrender immediately before the battle. However, Zhang Rui is naturally not the kind of person who chooses level suppression. Instead, he took out the Shakira's Pokeball and threw it out. Since the rules of the game have been explained, then my Pokémon is Go. Shakira's. Seeing Zhang Rui summon Shakira's, Shi Xiaoming frowned and thought, this kid is really impatient. But wait until I defeat you, and see how you can still be arrogant. Then, Shi Xiaoming took out his Pokeball and threw it to the field. Go. Sandshrew. As soon as the Sandshrew appeared, Zhang Rui saw that the physical fitness of the Sandshrew in front of him was much higher than that of other Sandshrews, especially the muscles on its body. It can be seen that Shi Xiaoming has trained it a lot. After reading its data, Zhang Rui did not feel anything special. The qualification was just an ordinary B level, and the level was only level 21. It was not as good as the owner of the Hualan Gym. While Zhang Rui was thinking, Shi Xiaoming had already let the Sandshrew attack. Sandshrew, use roll. The Sandshrew's body turned into a football, rolled up the dust on the ground, and rushed towards Shakira's. Iron Head. Seeing the Sandrat rushing over quickly, Shakira's showed no fear at all. After hearing Zhang Rui's order, his body turned into the color of iron. Just when the Sandrat was about to hit it, Shakira's used his powerful strength to push the Sandrat directly over. Due to the powerful impact of the Sandrat and Shakira's, the Sandrat was directly pushed into the air, and the Sandrat, which was originally in a spherical shape, quickly returned to its original shape. At this time, Shi Xiaoming seized the opportunity and gave an order, use high-speed stars. Rockfall to meet. Zhang Rui saw this and gave Shakira's an order calmly. The sandrat turned into a spherical shape again in the air, and with the help of its body rotation in the air, it generated a large number of yellow stars and rushed toward Shakira's. At this time, Shakira's had condensed a large number of rocks around his body. Just when the yellow stars flew over, Shakira's also launched the rocks beside him. The huge rocks and many stars collided with each other, causing a huge explosion between the two. Due to the impact of the explosion, the other party could not be seen at all. However, Zhang Rui did not issue an order, but raised his mouth slightly, as if he knew the outcome. As the black smoke was generated, the Sandshrew thought that its attack could cause damage to Shakira's, but it was still disappointed. The huge rock directly blocked all the attacks and rushed straight to the Sandshrew. Seeing this, the Sandshrew tried its best to dodge the flying rocks when it fell, but it was still hit by a rock and fell heavily to the ground, losing its combat ability. Sandshrew. When Shi Xiaoming saw that the Sandshrew had lost its combat ability, his face was full of shock, but because of this, his 98-game winning streak was directly ended by Zhang Rui. On the screen, the original 98-game winning streak has now become 0, which means that Shi Xiaoming is going to repeat it again. Shi Xiaoming quickly picked up the Sandshrew and said to Zhang Rui in front of him, "You are very strong. This game I lost the game." Zhang Rui nodded and said to him, "Actually, I was lucky to win. You are not weak either. Come on." As he said that, he took back Shakira's and sighed in his heart. As expected of an SS level qualification, he has only won 2 games and has risen to the next level. This speed is really fast. But I haven't learned any new skills. After listening to Zhang Rui's encouragement, Shi Xiaoming also nodded and said firmly, "I will restart my winning streak here. When we meet next time, I will definitely defeat you." Just when Shi Xiaoming was talking to Zhang Rui had already walked out the door, leaving him only a back view and a sentence, "Come on. Come on." After saying that, he left here. Since the dungeon challenge has been completed, Zhang Rui is ready to go back through the system. However, in order to prevent the situation like last time, Zhang Rui still confirmed again and again whether there is anyone around. Just when he was looking around, he saw Xiaoji and his group in the jungle in the distance. However, there are only Xiaoji and Xiaojiang, but there is no Xiaoxia. If you think about it carefully, Xiaoxia has been sent to the small world by him, so why would she travel with Xiaoji? Zhang Rui did not say hello to Xiaoji, but called the system directly. "System, exit the dungeon." As soon as he finished speaking, a huge black vortex appeared in front of him, and Zhang Rui walked in without thinking. After Zhang Rui left, Xiaoji came to the wooden door, knocked on the door, and said to the inside, "I am Xiaoji from Pallet Town, I want to apply for a challenge for you." At night, in the dormitory of Shanghai Elf Academy, Zhang Rui has walked out of the dungeon and started waiting for the system's reward settlement. He doesn't know what good things the system will give him this time. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for clearing the challenge arena dungeon and getting rewards, intermediate experience block recipes, and 100,000 elf coins. Rewards have been distributed to the host's warehouse, please check. Ding dong. A new dungeon has been opened, challenge the Dead Leaf Gym. Do you choose to challenge? Chapter 79. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing the system's reward, Zhang Rui couldn't help but shout out, "This is too good." Intermediate Experience Block Formula. The low-level experience block formula can already allow the elves to quickly upgrade their levels, and the intermediate experience formula is definitely much better than the low-level experience block. Perhaps an intermediate block can instantly upgrade 1 level. This is possible, let alone an elf with such good qualifications. However, Zhang Rui suppressed his excitement and looked at the current time. Now every time Zhang Rui comes out of the dungeon, he has to check the time. If there is enough time, he will choose to challenge the dungeon again, and if it is already very late, then he can only give up challenging the dungeon. After all, he really doesn't want to stay up late. And there will be an exchange competition between colleges held by the school tomorrow. This year, our school is waiting for the other party to challenge at school. therefore, the school did not notify Zhang Rui to let Zhang Rui prepare to challenge other colleges, but waited until other colleges came before notifying. Zhang Rui looked at the time. It was only 8 o'clock. There was still a lot of time. He could challenge the Withered Leaf Gym with Shakira's. Anyway, their electric elves were nothing to Shakira's. System, challenge the Withered Leaf Gym. As soon as Zhang Rui finished speaking, a black vortex appeared in front of him. Just like usual, he walked in again. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in the Withered Leaf City. The building in front of him was decorated with yellow lightning symbols, and there was a door at least 2 meters higher than Zhang Rui. This is the Withered Leaf Gym for sure. This time the system did not teleport it to the entrance of the Withered Leaf City, but directly to the Withered Leaf Gym. It was probably to save him time. Just as Zhang Rui wanted to push the door in front of him and walk in, he saw that the huge iron door opened by itself, and a young man ran out from it, holding an injured elf in his arms. "Pop, hold on, I'll take you to the Pokémon Center for treatment." After seeing Pop with his whole body burnt, Zhang Rui's mouth trembled a little, thinking to himself, using a flying Pokémon to fight an electric Pokémon, it's really excellent. Just then, another little girl followed closely, holding a wounded Pokémon in her arms. "Cheer up. Spearow, I'll take you to the Pokémon Center now." At this moment, Zhang Rui was speechless. Wow, a flying Pokémon fighting an electric Pokémon, one is braver than the other. Zhang Rui ignored these ignorant children, and after they left, Zhang Rui walked towards the gym. As soon as he walked in, he found that the room was pitch black, and he could only see the appearance of the person in front of him through a little light outside the door. A man with a buzz cut and earrings on his ears. Could this be the legendary bad boy? The woman next to him was not much better. She wore a green headband and red clothes. Although she looked bad, her figure was proud and upright, especially the pair of big white rabbits on her chest, which made Zhang Rui, who was so calm, have the urge to go over and rub them. "Are you the next trainer to challenge?" After hearing the words of the short-haired man next to him, Zhang Rui finally reacted, moved his eyes away from the woman, nodded to the short-haired man next to him, and said, "Yes, I am here to challenge the gym. Boss, here comes another one to die." After hearing Zhang Rui's words, the short-haired man said to the man behind him, originally, it was pitch black behind the two of them, but at this time a huge figure appeared, saying, "Are you the next challenger?" With the help of the additional light, Zhang Rui found that the man was sturdy and strong, with strong muscles on his arms, but there was a yellow thorn tail on his head, which attracted people's attention. "You are the gym trainer, Maki?" "Yes, it's me, baby." Hearing Zhang Rui's question, Maki responded, and walked in front of Zhang Rui, touching Zhang Rui's head to welcome him. "Can the game start now?" "Of course." Then, the lights in the whole room suddenly turned on, and a huge battlefield appeared in front of Zhang Rui, and there were some unique signs of the electric gym above his head. Maki slowly walked to one side of the battlefield, while Zhang Rui stood on the other side of him. The man with the short hair walked to the center of the venue and began to announce the rules of the game. "Now let's start the official challenge of the gym trainers. The Pokémon used is 1, please summon the Pokémon." Maki was the first to summon the Pokémon, took out the Pokeball from his body and threw it out, saying, "Go. Raichu." At the same time, Zhang Rui also summoned Shakira's. After seeing Shakira's, Maki was a little surprised and said to Zhang Rui, "This Pokémon is of the ground attribute. It seems that you have done a lot of homework before the battle. However, even if it is a Pokémon of the ground attribute, my Raichu can easily knock you down. Raichu, use Lightning Flash." Raichu immediately ran, but due to its weight, its speed was not very fast, but it still came in front of Shakira's and used its body to hit Shakira's, but Shakira's body is very hard, and it is almost weak to physical attacks. Seeing that Raichu's attack did not work on Shakira's, Maki gritted his teeth and immediately gave an order, continuously use Lightning Flash. Raichu kept hitting Shakira's body, and Shakira's body was not hurt, but Raichu's head was already injured. Shakira's can hurt the opponent without taking action now. Damn it, Maki gnashed his teeth as he watched Raichu unable to do anything to Shakira's. He hated ground-type Pokémon the most. After all, among the skills Raichu had learned, few could cause damage to ground-type Pokémon. I don't believe it, Raichu, use the wrestling attack. Raichu's tail emitted a white light, and it hit Shakira's with its slender tail. Bang! This time, the effect of the wrestling attack was very strong, and Shakira's was actually pushed back dozens of steps, and even left scars on its face. Zhang Rui did not let Shakira's bear Raichu's skills at this time, but gave another order and said, "Power of the earth." Shakira's used its sharp body to pierce the ground, and the entire ground quickly shook violently. A large number of cracks began to appear on the ground, and the body standing in front of Shakira's sank instantly. At this moment, the impact caused by the cracking of the ground came, and the powerful impact hit Raichu's body, and it was actually knocked out directly. Chapter 80. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the flying Raichu, Zhang Rui saw the current state of Raichu through the data eye. It has changed from a minor injury to a serious injury, but it is not yet in a dying state. But Zhang Rui still sighed in his heart, only using ground-based skills to hit twice the restraint actually directly injured Raichu. If it is 4 times the damage, it is estimated that one move can kill it instantly. At this time, Maki also saw the flying Raichu, and his brain was working rapidly, hoping to come up with a strategy to deal with it, but Zhang Rui would not give him a chance to fight back, and immediately ordered. Shakira's, don't stop, use rock collapse. Shocked a dark brown light appeared on Shakira's body, and this dark brown light continued to condense, and a large number of rocks appeared around his body. These rocks quickly rotated around Shakira's body, aiming at the falling Raichu, and quickly launched these rocks. Maki, who had no choice, hurriedly let the Raichu in the air use the wrestling skill to repel the flying rocks. However, the speed and power of the rock were so great that the tail of the Raichu, which was gathered by white light, only smashed the rock in the front, but all the rocks behind it hit the Raichu. The already seriously injured Raichu could not withstand such a strong attack. The rock exploded in the air the moment it touched the Raichu. The exploded rock instantly produced a large amount of smoke. The Raichu slowly fell down from the brown smoke. Obviously, judging from the injuries on its body, it had lost its combat ability. Although there were still many rocks around Shakira's body, it stopped moving immediately, and these suspended rocks fell to the ground. After all, Shakira's also knew that the Raichu in front of him had no combat ability. If it attacked the Raichu with the remaining offensive, Zhang Rui would probably not be happy. The Raichu fell heavily to the ground, and both of his eyes became fish eyes, and he lost his combat ability. Come back, Raichu. When Maki saw that Raichu had lost his ability to fight, he quickly aimed the Pokeball at Raichu, took it back, and said to the Pokeball in his hand, "You performed very well." Then, he looked at the handsome boy in front of him, laughed loudly, and said, "It seems that I shouldn't call you baby, and the one who calls baby should be me." Zhang Rui ignored Maki's voice, but used the Pokeball to take back Shakira's. After this battle, Shakira's level was once again improved from the original level 31 to level 32, and he also learned a new skill, the Wave of Evil. This is a skill with the highest evil coefficient. It seems that Shakira's learned this skill to prepare for the attribute conversion. After all, after it evolved, its attributes were not rock and ground, but the ground was replaced by the evil attribute. But this also caused Shakira's to be restrained by 4 times the fighting attribute, which was very annoying. While Zhang Rui was thinking, Maki glanced at the woman with a headband beside him. The woman naturally knew what it meant, so she walked up to Zhang Rui, took out a badge that looked like a sunflower from her body, and handed it to Zhang Rui. "This is the evidence of defeating me, an orange badge, please accept it." Maki walked up to Zhang Rui and explained. Zhang Rui certainly did not hesitate and immediately put the badge in his pocket. "Thank you very much." After saying that, he quickly left the Withered Leaf Gym and came to the door of the gym. Zhang Rui asked the system to open the transmission channel, and Zhang Rui immediately entered it. Since Zhang Rui did not spend much time this time, it was only 11 o'clock when he returned to the dormitory, and there was still plenty of time to sleep. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for clearing the Withered Leaf Gym and obtaining the orange badge, the electric shock monster detector, and 200,000 elf coins. Ding dong. The reward has been sent to the warehouse, please check it, ding dong. Open a new dungeon to challenge Golden Gym, host whether to challenge it. Zhang Rui ignored what the system said and lay down on the bed to sleep. He was exhausted now. After solving the problem of the skeleton team, Zhang Rui cleared 2 dungeons in a row. Now he was really exhausted and had no more strength. The first ray of sunlight in the morning shone into the house. Although Zhang Rui's eyes trembled a few times under the stimulation of the sunlight, he immediately turned around and continued to sleep, completely ignoring the invasion of the sunlight. At this moment, Yi Fei, who was sleeping, was awakened by a series of knocks on the door. He walked to the door with his still tired body, yawned and opened the door. What came into view was a cold expression. Although this face looked extremely cold, her appearance was incomparable. Ho Fei. It's you. Leng Wanru, what do you want to see me for? Yi Fei was still a little confused and didn't notice that Leng Wanru's cold face had a blush. Even she, who was originally calm, immediately covered her eyes with her hands and said. Your clothes. Clothes. I'm wearing them. Yi Fei was a little confused. He was wearing clothes, so he looked down and found that he didn't have any clothes on him. There was only a pair of yellow shorts with Pikachu printed on it, and the rest was really visible. Leng Wanru saw almost everything. No wonder she blushed. Without saying anything, Yi Fei quickly returned to the house, changed his clothes quickly, and when he opened the door, he made a handsome gesture. What's wrong? Miss Leng, have you finally found your conscience? There is still someone as handsome as me in the school. Looking at the narcissistic Yi Fei, Leng Wanru completely ignored him and said coldly, college exchange competition, Principal Qian is calling you. At this time, Yi Fei thought that today was the day of the college exchange competition, and students from other schools were coming to challenge. If it weren't for Leng Wanru's help, Yi Fei might have missed the competition. After seeing Yi Fei tidy up, Leng Wanru left Yi Fei's dormitory and walked towards Zhang Rui's dormitory. At this time, when Leng Wanru walked to Zhang Rui's door, her face was actually flushed. It is estimated that if she knocked on the door, Zhang Rui would be like Yi Fei, with nothing on except shorts, and her originally flushed cheeks quickly filled her eyes, directly making her whole face red, like a ripe apple. However, Leng Wanru was somewhat looking forward to him. With this attitude, Leng Wanru knocked on Zhang Rui's door gently. After a few minutes, there was no response from inside. After Leng Wanru knocked a few more times, there was still no response from inside the door. At this time, Yi Fei, who was standing aside, couldn't stand it anymore and said, give up. As long as that guy is asleep, he won't wake up no matter how you shout. There is a way to wake him up. I can climb over the wall and wake him up. How about that?